remember that the Bible was written in Hebrew, the New Testament, much of it written in Greek. And so in order to get it to other people, it was translated into those languages. And so sometimes what I do is I go back to the original language to make sure I'm reading the right translation. Because sometimes you have to do your own translation. Now, you all have your different careers, and this is mine. I have a master's degree from Union Theological Seminary, one of the greatest seminaries in the world. I prepared to do what I'm doing. I don't do magazines like my friend Brother Donovan. I don't do electricity. I don't create cell phones. But I got a spiritual phone to tell you about that'll help you dial up God whenever you want to get in touch with Him. Now, for those of you who are visiting for the first time, this may be a little rough teaching, but I'm not as mean as I sound, but the word is true. If you look at what the Bible really teaches us, it is that the pastors are shepherds. Pastors are shepherds. We are put here as under shepherds because God is the supreme shepherd. We are His body here on earth in order that He can teach through us what He wants His people to do. This teaching is not for the world. This is for people who are saved, people who have accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. The Bible, people say the Bible is written to the world. The Bible is written to God's people. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy was written by Moses, written to God's people. The New Testament is written to God's people. So you never should expect the world to do what God's people are supposed to do. God's people are to love everybody. And the reason you can do that is because you have the love of God in you. God's people are to look out for those who can't help themselves, the last, the least, the lost, the downtrodden. You know why? Because that's what God does. We are His representatives here on earth. And the church, a group of people, are never supposed to know that there's somebody in our congregation who can't eat or who need help, and they get ignored. You see, people doing bad, that's not something to talk about, it's something to do something about. Why? Because you depend on God. When you can't help yourself, who do you call on? And usually God sends you a blessing through somebody. You can be electricians, you can be multimillionaires, you can be whatever God will allow you to be on this earth. But whatever it is, no matter how high you go, you ought to always reach back to help somebody. I told you, ever since I was about 18 or 19, the Lord put something in my spirit. I never walked by anybody that's in a wheelchair. That's why a lot of times I go to Manhattan and then come back with no money. I never walk by anybody in a wheelchair that I don't stop and leave them some money. Because I'm walking. There's a man, every time I go to the barbershop over there, I have to always give him money. He's always on the same corner. I think he'd be waiting for me to come back because I give him the biggest amount that he's going to get. You know what? That poor man's legs are cut off. And I'm walking. And you can't do anything to help somebody that God don't bless you. Somebody in here know what I'm talking about. So the position of a pastor is that of a shepherd. The position of shepherd, according to the Bible, gives the shepherd authority. Jesus spoke with authority. God cannot use mealy-mouthed people who acting like they half scared to speak up for him and for what he teaches in his word. There is no apology for right being right and wrong being wrong. You must stand firm on the word in a world that stands firm on very little. It is a position of authority. If you look at 2 Samuel 5 and 2, and I'm not going to read all of these things, I got all those scriptures for you where you can look at them to back up what I'm saying. It is that God not only deals with us in our spiritual lives, he also points out to us how we ought to govern our lives in the nation. Now, I got a few things I want to talk about that's not on your sheet. Number one, when you are dealing with God, you are dealing with the supernatural. You're not dealing with the natural. God is supernatural, which means that he's outside of that which is natural. It is natural for your body to get thirsty and for you to drink water. In order for you to get thirsty for God, you've got to get to know God and grow. That's supernatural. There are things such as miracles. That's supernatural. You can't buy miracles. You can't borrow miracles. Whatever it is that's going on in your body, whatever it is that's going on in your mind, whatever it is going on in your life, when you can't find the natural to help it, you got to call on the supernatural. And I'm talking from experience. I've had to go through some sick times so that God would bring me out so I can testify that God will heal your body. Some of y'all have been looked at me and I was preaching and boy, the church was shouting and all, and y'all thought I was well. I was sick. But God said, preach in season and out of season. And I'll tell you something. When you do what God says, there's nothing that goes on with you that God can't take care of.
All right.
When you stand up and hear me say that God will rebuild you from the inside out, I know what I'm talking about. Because after God has healed you on the inside and the doctor can't find nothing, and by the way, I didn't take their medicine because I knew what was going on. I stuck by, and I'm not telling you not to take medicine because we ought to have doctors. But my doctor is bigger than any doctor. He'll heal your kidneys. He'll heal your heart. And I discovered the healing of God one time. I was standing at the bus and I broke one of my, I got every one of my teeth except I had one that accidentally got broke. A friend of mine, I was working at McDonald's and he was showing me about boxing. He accidentally hit me in my mouth. I think it was an accident anyway. And broke my tooth. I'm standing at the bus stop and my tooth was hurting, so I laid my hands. The Lord said, lay your hands on. I laid my hands on and prayed and the pain went away. Never came back. That's when I realized that God has supernatural healing. Did anybody in here else know what I'm talking about? I have been by the bedside of people with AIDS. I have had members that had cancer and are still here